Francis, how did you find carnivore?
Well, it's quite the story. Um, my parents actually found it first and got me onto it. But I guess I'll start the story back when I was 12 and I went to boarding school because my parents, they lived in Hong Kong and they wanted to send me and my siblings to an Australian school. Anyway, so boarding school, as you can imagine, the food it's mass produced food, so probably not that very nutrient dense. Quite low red meat, so we had lots of chicken. Um, when we did have a steak night, it was maybe a thin piece of steak, and you'd have breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner, dessert, supper, and also you have a pantry full of snacks. And so you're away from your parents, and you have this pantry full of snacks. You've got corn chips, ice cream, Milo, which is a chocolatey drink in Australia, cookies. Anyway, so if you're a young girl or boy and you don't really know much about nutrition and food, you think, oh, this is great. So you load up on all of the lovely processed foods. I loved it. I would come home from school and I would make a plate of nachos, and then I'd have the afternoon tea, and then I would have dinner, and then I would have dessert and supper, and I have it all. And maybe after like a year or 2 years of being at boarding school, I noticed, I was going through puberty. I was probably 13, 14 after that. That I was putting on a little bit of weight. Nothing dramatic. Just, I noticed my face blew up and I had a bit of tummy fat, and that made me extremely uncomfortable realizing that. But I didn't really understand food or nutrition. I just knew that, oh, this is a problem. Um, so how I dealt with that at the time, my parents, they've always been healthy. I've always been raised in a very healthy household. And they were doing no sugar and no gluten. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll do that. That's a healthy thing to do. And so I did the same as them, but I think I took it to a new extreme of restriction. So I did that, but then I also just stopped eating a lot of foods that I thought were unhealthy. Um, and as I was doing that, it definitely became a method of control. And I was a little perfectionist in school. I had a leadership role. I always wanted to get good grades, and so dieting became, another avenue to control and be a little perfectionist. So I was doing that, and without even realizing, I lost a lot of weight. And my when you lose a lot of weight, your mood also has an impact. So I think I was getting a bit depressed, and people started noticing and saying things, and people started telling me, there's something wrong. And I started to realize, oh, maybe there is something wrong, but I didn't really care. And so then that all sort of spiraled. My parents and everyone around me was obviously really worried, and I got taken to psychologists and dietitians. But I wasn't in the headspace to make any sort of change, and I didn't want to change. And I was happy with my little life of control around what I was eating, because the foods that I had previously were eating felt so unsafe to me because I had gained all that weight from them. So the simplest solution seemed like to, well, why would I eat those? I will become fat and gain weight if I eat those. So anyway, I was going through these psychologists and dietitians, and they were just saying, trying to get me to eat, all of the normal foods again, even, the processed foods. And that's supposed to be a sign of health if you can eat the processed foods and have a good relationship with them. Anyway, so that didn't work. And I got admitted to hospital because I wasn't getting better and things were getting to a really critical point. They put a feeding tube in me, which now I realize actually has seed oil in the stuff that they feed you at hospital. It's got canola oil, and it's obviously full of sugar. And this is the same stuff that they feed to babies and old people. Apparently, the seed oil is the healthy fats that they say are required for life. And obviously, having that inside me was an extremely, extremely traumatic process. I have no control of the food that's being pumped into me, and it's pumped into me 24 hours a day, even while I'm sleeping. Anyway, so I do everything that they tell me in hospital. I want to get out of that place. It was horrible. Um, and I'm a good little girl. I get out, but obviously my mind is still messed up. I haven't actually been healed. They've just pumped me with sugar and they send me on my way. Um, and so I was in there the first time for about a week, and they released me. I think I'm released maybe for a month. I'm trying to get better, but I mean, in no part of my mind was I trying to get better. I was still terrified of food and didn't think that they were ever going to satiate me. So the best thing was just to not eat. Um, so I go back to hospital because I wasn't getting better. And the next time I'm in there for a month. Now, in hospital, they serve you breakfast with a lovely carby breakfast of cereal and toast with a chocolate sort of shake, sugary chocolate shake. Morning tea, some biscuits and a chocolate shake. Lunch, some sandwiches, like a lovely carby lunch and a chocolate shake. And afternoon tea, some biscuits, chocolate shake. Dinner, carbs, chocolate shake, dessert. And yeah, you're fed all of this sugar, and they're trying to like heal your relationship with food. All the while, you're eating all this crap, all this processed food, and you're not feeling satiated. Your mind's going crazy. You're thinking, okay, I'm eating so much food, but like I still feel really, really messed up, and I still don't understand my relationship with food. And yeah, then they send you on your way. So after a month of being there, I pretended like I was all good, and yep, the relationship with food's all fixed now. Thanks, guys. But it really wasn't. And I think it actually made me worse. And I think they knew that. They even told my parents, suggested that I might need to go on psychiatric medication because, yeah, that's really going to help my relationship with food. Um, so obviously, I didn't go on that. Thank God. My parents, they're holistically minded enough. They were holistically minded enough at the time, and they're even more holistically minded now to know that that wasn't going to help me. And God, I feel so sad for all of the other people that go to hospital for an eating disorder and then they get put on psychiatric medications that they probably stay on for the rest of their life. Like, and also I feel so sad for the other people that they go to hospital, they're pumped with these high sugar meals like I was. Um, and to me, reflecting on it, I'm so angry because it's like giving an alcoholic alcohol instead of water. It's the worst thing you could possibly do to help someone recover. It complicates your relationship with food even more when you add in sugar because it's so addictive. Anyway, so the more and more I think about my experience in hospital, the more angry I get, and the more I feel like I have to speak about this to everyone because anorexia is the highest, has the highest mortality rate out of the mental illnesses, yet the treatment for it makes no sense. So yeah, I'm sorry, went on a little rant there. But yeah, so I came out of hospital and my eating disorder was worse. Only after hospital did my bulimia start, which was a new thing in all my disease and illness. Um, that started because I felt like I had to pretend to everyone that I was okay. So it started this whole horrible binge and restrict cycle of restricting till I was weighed. Sorry, restricting, and then right before I was about to be weighed, then I would binge and try and eat lots of food, and then I would be weighed, and then anyway, it was a really, really unhealthy cycle. And then I started, going out as a young person in Australia, and drinking alcohol, which added a whole other layer of everything was messed up. I would restrict for a whole week, go out on the weekend, binge drink like every young Australian would do. And then the next day, binge because, I needed to eat because I hadn't eaten the whole week. And also on the nights out where I was drinking and I hadn't eaten anything the previous week, I would obviously black out and not remember my whole night because, if you're drinking, you kind of need a bit of food in your stomach. Otherwise, it's not a pretty picture. So that was a very, very unhealthy unhealthy cycle. And anyway, I managed to convince everyone that I was okay. And I got out of seeing psychologists, which was great for me. I felt like I had won. Um, and I mean, the psychologists and dietitians were not helping at all. To them, being healthy was okay. Well, you should be able to, eat all the foods now and not feel uncomfortable. You should be able to eat these ice creams and ice buns and feel like you don't have to eat any more food, which doesn't make any sense because they're such addictive foods. I think it's some people that have ruined their relationship with food and ruined their hunger signals, like I have, to such an extreme. We're never going to be able to eat those foods and be okay. Um, Anyway, so I have a few years of doing this really unhealthy, binge on the weekend after having a big night out of drinking and not remembering anything. And it was a very dark and confusing time. One of my friends from school died. I think I felt really numb. I had no sense of, okay, I probably should try and get better. Um, but then COVID happened, thank God. And the drinking sort of stopped a little bit, which gave me a bit more of a clear head. And I actually read this book by Alan Carr. It's called The Easy Way to Quit Drinking. And it completely changed my life. What's so great about the book is it really takes on a different way of helping people to quit alcohol. It goes through all of the reasons why drinking is so pointless. And then you finish the book and you have no desire to drink again. Instead of, quitting something, but you still want it and you're using the restrictive, like, I will not do this sort of method. You just don't feel the need to drink anymore. So I gave this book to my parents. They read the book. They stopped drinking. So the quitting drinking really helped with the unhealthy, like bulimia and binge and restrict cycle. So I finished that. And then for a few years, I was like eating whole foods because after quitting drinking, I wanted to be healthy and I wanted to do the right thing by my body. I came across this holistic psychiatrist called Kelly Brogan, and she had a massive impact on me. She was taking psychiatric patients off their medications that they had been on for years, like bipolar and all these sorts of psychiatric illnesses. And she was doing it, just with lifestyle changes. And one of her things was she would not see a patient if they didn't want to eat red meat, because red meat was essential for healing your mental illness. And I learned about the gut brain connection. So this was the first sort of time in my life that I sort of learned, oh, red meat might be important. And she spoke a lot about how we're actually completely responsible for ourselves and our illnesses, because the rhetoric in modern day psychiatry is that you're not responsible for your illness. You have a random brain disease and we need to treat it with medication. And if we treat it with medication, I mean, you'll have it for the rest of your life, but it'll be bearable. And it's not your fault. It's, you were born like this. There's nothing you can do. So here's your medication and you'll be fine. But her take on things was, no, you're actually completely responsible. And it's up to you to change your life. And I mean, this is completely in stark in contrast with how they view like eating disorders, because in eating disorders, they sort of make up that you have this second voice in your mind that's telling you to do all these things. But I mean, that still didn't feel really right for me, because I kind of knew, like, okay, I do have some sort of control in this. Like, I could change this, but I'm choosing not to, because the easiest thing is to not change anything. So realizing that, wait, I'm in charge of my miserable life, like it's up to me to get myself out of this hole, was so empowering and completely different to what people had been telling me. So I sort of started realizing, okay, well, it's up to me to get better. So I started eating red meat more, and I started eating whole foods, but I was still terrified of fat, because I knew that fat had high calories. And if I ate a lot of fat, I would gain weight. And also I knew that I still had this never ending pit of hunger inside my stomach. And that if I sort of ate more high calorie foods, well, that could be really dangerous because I can eat a lot. And so I would eat a lot of high volume, low calorie foods. So like lots of salads, lots of carrots. I ate so many carrots that my hands became orange because the carrots had really low calories and I just loved carrots. Um, anyway, so I had years of like doing the whole foods thing, and people probably thought that I was okay-ish from the outside, but my mind was still a calculator on the inside, and I still, was thinking about what I was going to be eating every single meal. I still had to have complete control of the cooking and what I was eating, and I still would have moments of like a little binge here and there, and I still was terrified of food because I knew if I just let myself eat, I just don't have control. I mean, even fruit, I even found fruit addictive. I could eat endless amounts of fruit. So yeah, I thought this was the new normal. I'm eating whole foods, I'm eating red meat, I'm good. I could probably live with this for the rest of my life. And so my parents, they were trying different sorts of ways of eating to help my mum with her menopause symptoms. And so they tried this like leptin sensitivity way of eating. It was, really low carb and but still some like avocado and some kale and some spinach. I tried doing that, but I still felt like I had this food addiction, never ending pit of a stomach. So then they changed to carnivore. And obviously, when you think about carnivore for the first time, you think, "Wow, that's really extreme." But they were doing it, and they were looking so healthy, and just had so much energy. They're in their 50s. They've always been really fit and healthy, but this was a whole nother level. My mum's hair was growing so much. Her menopause symptoms went down, and they actually started losing weight. And that they were telling me about this and saying, your body will just take control of how much food you need. And to me, as someone that is so sick of controlling how much food they need and has this endless pit of a stomach and hunger signals that don't work, hearing about a way of eating where you didn't have to control anything and you wouldn't put on weight, you would actually lose weight if you had weight to lose, sounded like a magical miracle solution that I didn't really believe. But if it was true and if it was possible, wow, that would be amazing. Also, at the time, I still hadn't gotten my period back, so this is 8 years of not having my period. And I knew that I wanted to be a mother one day, so that was a really important thing for me to do. And it's interesting. I was trying to research, how to get my period back and all these things. And a lot of these accounts now and influencers that help women with this tell you how important carbohydrates are for getting your period back and fixing your hormones, and how women need carbohydrates. So I was conflicted. My parents were telling me, "Oh, carnivore might be a good thing for you," but I had heard all these things. "Oh, maybe I need carbs. Maybe this is the worst thing for me." Anyway, I'm eventually convinced, I should just try it. And I try it, and for the first time in my life, I actually feel full after a normal size meal, and don't think about food for a few hours until it's the next time for a meal. And I didn't blow up and turn into the size of a house. I didn't gain any weight. And, a few months into doing it, my period came back. Wow, it came back, and I didn't eat carbs, which goes against everything you read online now. And the benefits just started getting better and better. I mean, I had no more head noise about food anymore because I would just eat when I'm full, and not eat again until I was hungry. And I became the weight that I was meant to be, and I started to love my body. My hair started growing, my nails started growing. I was no longer cold all the time. My skin is always clear now. I am just happier. I've gotten the spark back that I lost before all of this messy, complicated stuff with food happened. And yeah, I mean, there's been so many benefits. I sleep so well now. My mood is high. I always have good energy. I'm never sore in the gym anymore. But yeah, just the main thing is just how clear cut my relationship with food is now. And I thought that for the rest of my life, I would have to live with these voices in my head controlling my food. And I think that's the reality for a lot of women with eating disorders, which makes me really angry because most women probably don't find carnivore, or most people probably think, this is such a crazy way of eating. And most people probably think this is just another eating disorder. And it's just a no-no. Don't do this as a way to heal your eating disorder, because it's just another eating disorder. And I've actually watched one of your videos where you speak about this, with the lady, I forgot her name, whether, is carnivore just another eating disorder. And I love that the distinction that you made is, an eating disorder comes with that disordered thinking around food, when actually, carnivore brings the opposite. You no longer have disordered thinking about food. You don't think about food. You eat when you're hungry, you stop when you're full, and it's how our ancestors ate. And it's the least disordered relationship with food ever. And I can't see how anyone with an eating disorder goes to just eating the standard way of eating, even, eating whole foods with all these sugary fruits, and doesn't have disordered thinking about food, because food is so addictive now. Um, even they're even creating foods now to override Ozempic, so that nothing can stop you from being addicted to foods. So I'm really, really concerned about the future of people with eating disorders, because how will they ever be healed when they're just told that they should just eat a normal, healthy, normal standard diet, what everyone else eats? Because to me, it actually seems impossible. And it might sound extreme, but I think carnivore is probably one of the only ways that you truly heal your relationship with food, because you cut out all of those addictive foods and you only leave what you actually need for life and what is nutrient dense. So yeah, I want more women and men that have these problems with food to know about this. And for a long time, actually, I didn't have any social media. I've only just gotten social media because the more I sit and think about this, the more angry it makes me, and the more people need to know about this. And I think as well, it's one of the biggest crimes against humanity, what people are doing in hospitals to heal these people with this. And it just makes me really, really, really sad for these people. And yeah, that's how I found carnivore.
Right. Well, congratulations. How long has it been for you that since you first got started?
It's been like a year and 3 or 4 months.
Right. So, I mean, considering you went through this for such a long period of time, a year and 3 months, while it's, long by, having started carnivore, it's a very short time. Like, it must feel like that year and 3 months has kind of flown by.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can't believe it's been a year and 3 months. Um, I
Mm,
wish I found it sooner, but I'm so glad I found it when I did. I mean, so many women with eating disorders, and men, sorry, um, have these for the rest of their lives. I think most people probably do, and they just pretend that they don't and that they're normal. But yeah, I think when you ruin your hunger signals to such a degree, I don't think you're ever normal again. You're probably just really good at pretending.
right. You mentioned something when you were sharing your story about how when they diagnose you and they start to give you drugs and all that kind of thing, one of the things you're told is it's not your fault.
Yeah.
You know, this is kind of marketing 101. I think if you ever hear or read something that's basically it's not your fault, they're trying to sell something to you.
Yeah. They
It's
have the
like if it's not
solution.
your yeah, yeah. Because if they take your responsibility out of it and say this is just something that's happening to you, then they can sell you the fix.
Yep. Yep.
And it's just, it's so evil.
It's so evil. Yeah. And the quickest way to get better is to realize you actually have a part in this. You're responsible. That made the massive, that was a massive, massive change in my life when I realized that. And it's such a shame that they don't tell more people that.
Yeah. So day to day, how are you eating now?
I probably eat like 2 or 3 meals a day. I still like to eat frequently. I know some carnivores eat once a day. I think for me, for having such a long period of restriction, it's really nice to be able to just eat with, when I want with frequency. So 2 or 3 meals a day. It really depends. My hunger changes. The other day I had like 4 patties, 2 eggs, and then for dinner I had an 800-gram tomahawk. I didn't think I was going to eat it all, but I just felt like I wanted to, and I ate it all. And then some days I'll have, 3 meals of just like patties and eggs and butter. I have a bit of chicken, not too much. I try not to eat too much cheese because even with the cheese, I there's those little like addictive food patterns I notice in my mind. Um, and yeah, I don't eat much. Like I don't drink dairy or anything like that. Just the cheese occasionally.
And I guess one of the great things about this is while you're eating it, you're able to actually eat and enjoy. You're not sitting there thinking, "Oh, is this have I eaten too many calories now?" and all this kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, before I would be always thinking, okay, how much am I eating now? Okay, I better go work out tomorrow or today. I've eaten too much. Well, I can't eat tomorrow. Or, oh, I don't deserve dessert. And even this is really, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like celebrations, like Christmas is coming up. Before, Christmas used to be so scary because I'm around all these people. You're meant to eat a lot of food, and that was terrifying for me. So I would be really, really not looking forward to Christmas, my own birthday, other people's birthdays. You're expected to have a cake. Um, and now, like, I don't even think twice about it. I'm excited for Christmas. We're probably going to get tomahawks or some really nice steak. It's going to be lovely. It's such a big difference in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, your parents must be so happy that you're at this point now.
Oh, they're so happy. I think when you have a mental illness, you impact everyone in your life. And for a long time, I had a really bad relationship with them. I was very angry with them. I didn't let them in, and they were so worried. That they thought I was going to die. They're told by these doctors that it has a really high mortality rate. You might need to get her on medication, and they really really scare you. And especially that they don't know what's going on in my mind. That they think the worst. And also my sister. I've always been really, really close with my sister, and it obviously took a lot of attention away from her. And she had many years where everyone was worried about me and talking about me. And I think she probably needed love and attention during those times, and I stole that from her, and I feel really guilty about that. And same with my brother. I think he probably was sick of dealing with all my problems and antics and that. And when you're going through that, you're aware of that and the impact it has of everyone around you, and you feel a lot of shame. You feel a lot of shame, and so especially all my friends at school and everyone that I knew, like them finding out, like it's so embarrassing. And for a long time, I didn't want to talk about it, and I just pretended I was fine. I was still a little perfectionist. I didn't want anyone to know anything was wrong. And for many years now, I haven't spoken about it, and I'm only speaking about it sort of recently now that I've like properly fully healed. Um, and also for a long time, I didn't want to be that girl with the eating disorder. I didn't want that to be my thing. But the more I've been thinking about it, the more I'm like, well, maybe this is my thing, because I've been through this completely traumatic experience in my life that I never thought I would heal from, but I've healed from it. And maybe it is my thing to share this with other people, because it should be shared with other people, because I think it could change so many people's lives.
And, speaking about how it does change people's lives, like in your situation, you're feeling so much better, that your relationship with food is so much different now. Um, how has it impacted the rest of your life? Like, what are you doing now as far as are you studying? Are you working?
I'm a lawyer. I'm a family lawyer, and yeah, the mental clarity and energy is great. I feel like I can just sit and concentrate. Actually, the issue is I have so much energy that sitting for a whole day is becoming quite hard. I bought a big bouncy ball that I sit on, one of those medicine balls, and I like sit and bounce in it, or sometimes I stand up. And I love to go for like walks at lunch, and just move because yeah, I just feel like I have a surplus of energy. So having an office job is getting quite hard.
And I imagine being a lawyer, any type of lawyer, because you're dealing with things that are happening between people. I imagine it's pretty stressful. Do you feel like just being on a diet like this is able keeps your stress levels kind of manageable?
Definitely. You're so much calmer. And also when you don't have all this extra head noise about food and what you can eat and controlling, you can just focus on what you're doing and the task at hand. And yeah, I think as well when you go through a healing journey, it's natural that you develop sort of a more of a spiritual connection with life, and thinking, in the bigger picture. So I think that helps me more with people and clients. It makes me have more compassion. So yeah, there's so many different elements that have helped me.
That's fantastic. So, if you were talking to someone who was in a similar place to what you were, um, how could you talk to them to kind of encourage them in this direction?
I would say to them, I know you don't believe me, but there's actually a way of eating that will fix your hunger signals, and you will not eat forever, and you won't be fat at the end of the day. You might go through a transition period where your weight fluctuates a bit, but once you stabilize and get out of the transition period that carnivore has, um, your body will become healthy, beautiful, natural, and you will not be overweight. My mum, she's always been very healthy and fit, but she is the smallest I've ever seen her. And she's eating like, steaks every day. And yeah, and it's the best way to heal from an eating disorder because there's no restriction whatsoever. And you can eat delicious, yummy food. If you want to eat the 800-gram tomahawk, if that's what your body is telling you to do, you can do it, and you will be fine because you're only consuming nutrient dense food that your body needs. So your body will not hang on to anything that it doesn't need. And with the fat, that the fat is so nourishing, for you, for your soul, for your body. You'll get your period back. It's a no-brainer. And I would say, like, do you really want to live the rest of your life being miserable and controlling your food because you're worried about your weight when you can actually be happy and eat endless amounts of steak, which everyone secretly loves, um, and be a lovely weight and have a healthy body? It's a no-brainer to me. I think the issue is probably some people wouldn't believe it, and some people would probably think you're crazy because you need plants, you need fiber. Like, ooh, what would happen if you don't eat them?
So, Francis, if people want to reach out to you, do you have any social media or any way of getting in contact?
Yes, so I've recently got Instagram. It's Lady and Her Steak. Um, it's been an interesting time thinking about trying to navigate the world of social media. I haven't wanted to get it for a long time, but I've gotten it because I think I have something unique to share with people, and I want to reach more people with eating disorders that are still struggling, that don't know how to fix their hunger signals and relationship with food. So that's why I've created it. And yeah, if anyone's interested, you can follow along.
Awesome. I'll link to your Instagram in the show notes. Francis, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and experience. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I hope people that are struggling with food have heard this and are curious. And if you want to send me a message on direct message on Instagram, please feel free to. I would love to talk or help anyone.